good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of Season 64 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. This is race number 10, playoff race number 2, elimination race number 1. That's right, at the conclusion of 66 laps here tonight at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, we will be cutting the field from our original 13 down to our Elite 8. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Kyle Matthews. Michael Norman going to join us here shortly. Kyle, an interesting scenario coming into this elimination race because last week we saw a non-playoff contender in Joe DeSpirito go to victory lane, so nobody's locked into the next round yet. And with the points leader only 33 points above the cut line, last in the playoff standings only 25 points below the cut line, mathematically, everyone still has a shot to either move above or fall below the cut line with 39 starters here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody is safe. As you mentioned, we did not have a playoff driver win last week, which was a bit of a surprise. You mentioned that in seasons past, usually a playoff driver wins the first race of the playoffs. It did not happen last week, so nobody's locked in. Everybody still has a shot at advancing into the next round, and everybody still has a shot at not advancing into the next round. So it should be fun to watch tonight.
Also kind of interesting what maybe drivers would want to have in terms of their situation. You've got drivers that have a decent cushion above the cut line. They're going to be on the defense, try and preserve that gap here tonight. You've got drivers that are below the cut line by a pretty sizable margin. They're more than likely in the must-win scenario, but how nervous do you have to be if you're a driver that's hovering just above or just below that cut line? Because we've seen it in super speedway racing before. One wrong move could put you either in a good situation or a horrible situation with little chance of being able to change your fortune.
Yeah, exactly. And like, what do you do if you're in that position right there? Do you go on the offense or do you try to be defensive?
We also talk about the fact to tune in every week because what we see when the checkered flag waves may be somewhat different when we get ready to go green the following week. Of course, talking as well about post-race penalties during the course of this last week. People remember back last week, we didn't go back and look at what happened, but Craig Hagley had a moment off of turn 2 down the back straightaway, didn't bring out a yellow. The RTG ruling is if you are responsible for causing an incident that did not bring out a caution, you have to serve a pass-through penalty. The driver that was the cause of the Hagley spin was playoff contender Ulysses Sandoval, who we saw pick up a 4th place finishing position last week. He was called for the incident, got a post-race EOL penalty. As we show you the playoff standings, remember we talked about the fact that he was second in the points, 1 point out of the points lead. Look at him now, 9 points below the cut line. So that's got to be something that these playoff drivers are thinking about here tonight as well, is you want to be up there, you want to have a shot of advancing to the next round of the playoffs, but you don't want to make a move that when post-race reviews take place, may ultimately end up taking you out of playoff contention.
And Ulysses was the highest finishing of all the playoff drivers last week, and we thought, he wasn't safe by any means, but we thought he was in a fairly good position. Now he finds himself below the cut line. So, man, that's a tough break for Sandoval.
Hello, gentlemen.
There he is.
Michael Norman joining us.
There he is. So you look here quickly underneath the cut line there. Sandoval -9. You've got Metallic, Rodney Sullins. They're -15. They could point their way in, more than likely, with a top 10 finish. But then you look at Bob Dixon, Kelly Causey, 20 and 25 points back. You know, we talked about this last week, guys, that more than likely, since usually those guys that are close to each other in points always seem to find each other, whether it's at the front, middle, rear of the field during a race. Those kind of drivers have to be in must-win mentality here tonight.
Looks like we've had a restart of some sort here, waiting on the command.
Jeremy
is
having issues with his wheel.
It's a hardware issue. We usually see that if somebody ends up having a gear failure, some kind of a hardware issue, game tab out, whatever the case may be, they'll line them back up on the grid and give it one more shot here. The random qualifying results puts Jeff Cravello and Glenn Harris on the front row.
Cravello DeVille?
Cravello. You know, I feel like we made that reference a couple of seasons back, and I'd completely forgotten about that.
No, we made it this season.
Did we really?
Yeah. And I just was
Just
going with
remembered
it.
it.
It's the only reason why it was. Yeah, it's the only reason why I said it.
I believe both of these drivers are looking for their very first Talladega Challenge Series victory. We've seen 2 drivers pick up their first career victories here this season, Bob Dixon and Dunn LaPrade. LaPrade actually making up the inside of row number 2 with Mike Mangialardi. So he's going to be the highest starting of our playoff contenders coming into this one. Richard Martin and Josh Metallic, playoff contender, going to be in row 3. We talked about Kelly Causey, must-win situation pretty much tonight for the 0-0. He's back in row number 4 with Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Craig Hagley, who had that spin we talked about, he is the cut line driver tonight, 8th in the standings, 9 points above Ulysses Sandoval. He makes up row number 5 with another playoff contender, Donnie Garrett. John Godfrey, Bobby Farrell.
Gilbert.
They're back in row 6. Brian Schilling, former champion. He is in row 7 with Cy Jones. Greg Palmer, Denny Carroll in row 8. Row 9, Grant Wesley and Jessica Shelton. And your top 20 will be completed with Graham McDonald and Terry Bombard. Rodney Sullins, Tim Nofsker, a couple of playoff contenders back in row 11. Row 12 finds Doug Hewlick and 2-time winner on the season, Joe DeSpirito, who won 1 week ago. Jeremy Jeffries back in row 13 with playoff contender Chuck McClure. Robert Breedlove, Bob Seminara in row 14. And in the top 30 will be Keith Bynum and Dennis McCarthy. 31st place finds Bernie Mobbs, Mark Paglia back in 32nd. Row 17 with Ron Hagel and Tom Dixon. Bob Dixon and Jeffrey Elliott. They're back in row 18. Row 19, Ulysses Sandoval, Brian Rawson, and Greg Lovell will make up the 39-car starting lineup here tonight. No need for knockout qualifying. All drivers that showed made the field. And here we go, guys. 13 drivers started this journey. Only 8 will continue as... Oh, we got a stack up in the back, and we're already wrecking at the rear of the field. I see playoff contender Chuck McClure there.
Bob Seminara was the first one I saw go around.
Check to see if Ulysses is involved in that. He didn't get a good starting position.
Mark Paglia, playoff contender, was around. Tom Dixon, Dennis McCarthy.
Will we get a restart for that?
That's the big question. I'm not sure since we already had a reset. I might be wrong, but I think it may have started with the 41 of Denny Carroll. I saw Jessica Shelton jump up to the 3rd lane. The 41 kind of darted like he might have missed a shift, and I think it all chain reactioned back through the field.
Yeah, he definitely didn't get going on that start, and I think that's what stacked things up right there. But first car I saw go around was Bob Seminara. Then everybody behind him just...
Let's see if we can pinpoint exactly what occurred. It was a stack up on the initial start, so I'd be surprised if anybody got massive damage.
Alright, so I've got news. No restart. Apparently Denny Carroll blew 3rd gear and did not tell anybody.
He saw some smoke coming out of his car right there on the start, and then you see everybody piling in.
Looks like no damage for Ulysses Sandoval.
Yep, and there is no restart.
10-4. Seminara, who picked up the runner-up finish last week behind his teammate Joe DeSpirito. Keith Bynum was collected up in this. We mentioned Mark Paglia, Tom Dixon involved, Dennis McCarthy. Oh, there's why Tom Dixon retired out of the race. I was kind of wondering why, with kind of a harmless wreck there, not a whole lot of contact, why the 45 was listed as retired out of the race. There's your answer. Head on into the inside wall.
Race was over before it could begin for the 45, unfortunately.
Believe we had only 2 of our playoff contenders involved in this one. The 17 of McClure, the 28 of Mark Paglia.
Jess got into the back of Denny before. That's why he moved up. She moved up to the outside, and then again, like you said, just chained up right behind her.
It's really difficult to be able to react when you're full on the gas for, in this case, an initial start or a restart. Let's jump up to the 41 of Denny Carroll, and we'll go to the helicopter cam and just watch as it kind of accordions back through the field in reaction to what's going on ahead. There's the 41 missing the shift. Look how it all just backs up. Bombard into Nofsker, into Despirito, into McClure. There's just no time to be able to react at that point. And as
Just a
you said,
major
Michael, with there be no communication as well, that someone was having an issue up ahead, nobody able to take the action necessary to avoid.
just a huge chain reaction deal right there, and nobody really had anywhere to go.
So early caution here on the first lap of this race before we even got over to turn number 1. So Jeff Crivello going to keep the race lead. We did have some drivers towards the second half of the field come down pit road. Shelton, Jeffrey Elliott, Ulysses Sandoval, Bob Dixon, Greg Lovell, Chuck McClure, some of these drivers that I'm listing off, they were involved in that incident, so they may have come down, give their cars a little bit of TLC if they did receive some damage, but I didn't see anything terminal for any of those drivers outside of Tom Dixon. They obviously lose some track position, but then again, a number of those drivers involved, they started this race outside of the top 20, so they're not going to lose a whole lot of track position with coming to pit road, and they're also going to have about 2-3 laps more gasoline than the drivers up ahead of them, which could be interesting if we get into a long green flag run with green flag pit stops.
Especially if this thing were to go green the rest of the way. I don't expect it to, but you never know.
Now, I wasn't expecting it to happen this early with this yellow flag, but last week Jessica Shelton ended up finishing on the podium in that race. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get a hold of her for an interview. Here tonight, we're going to be able to dial up the in-race reporter, if you will, our fellow FRN broadcast colleague. Let's see if we can get a hold of her here, talk about last week and what just happened here on this initial start this evening at BSR.
User was moved to your channel.
Hey, Jess, it's the guys up here in the FRN booth. You got a copy?
I don't know who you are going.
Oh, okay. Well, first off, good to see you out there on the racetrack and not visiting us up here in the booth by a flying race car. But, unfortunately, a little bit of contact there on that initial start. But let's talk about last week, because, you know, we've documented, we've talked with you off the racetrack. This season's just been a struggle for this number 9 machine, but able to put it on the podium last week. How much of a relief was it to finally kind of find some momentum here?
I mean, podium's great and everything. Win would be awesome, but to actually be able to finish in the top 10, let alone top 15, I was actually pretty freaking thrilled about that. I mean, if you recall a few seasons ago, I was in the 9 and it was really horrible. I wasn't able to do anything. And then the following season, my luck turned. So, I mean, maybe this is just one of those down seasons, and maybe it's about to turn. And about the flying in the booth, I'm just happy I'm actually on the track still somewhere.
All four wheels are on the racing surface.
It looks like you have a little bit of momentum going. I think you finished 13th 2 weeks ago, and then the runner-up finished last week. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come.
Well, I mean, the whole process with last week was I knew I was kind of not going to be able to do much. I had a little bit of damage prior to that. So I was like, I know I could be all right in draft. So I just stuck behind Joe, and Joe, Seminary, and myself worked pretty well together. There was a few other people I was able to work with pretty good that whole race as well. But, you know, toward the end, Joe and Seminary, I mean, that whole group, all in all, I will say this, that they've done nothing but help me. It's always been good, even though sometimes it doesn't go your way at the end or whatever. And, you know, when you go for a win, you got to leave your partner out sometimes. It's understandable. But it's like, well, since I've been able to talk with them, they've done nothing but help me. And, you know, I'm very appreciative of that.
You know, it's interesting when we talk about Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. I've gone on record and said this season, it almost looks like this is about the raciest we've seen drivers be at this particular racetrack. We know that usually we'll have the 3 wide at Talladega, all 3 lanes moving. We don't normally see that as much here at this racetrack. Normally you get 3 wide and it's a dominant inside line, but we've been able to see here this season that middle line, that outside line, actually be able to gain something from a driver's perspective in the middle of it all. Do you think it might be just a driver adaptation, finally figuring out how to get these multi-groove lanes to work? Or do you think it's just the driver mentality of now, I'm going to shove the heck out of this car in front of me and see if we can make something happen instead of running down along the yellow line?
Well, it's got to be what you said the first time, because honestly, with the drivers getting used to it, they're realizing that, hey, like at Talladega, the middle line is always going to be the strongest, no matter what. So you go 3 wide, that bottom's going to be the epic one, right? So BSR, we've had nothing but this bottom fest constantly, and then we have to go 3 wide, the middle gets sucked out, the high side prevails for a little bit, then the bottom kind of like scoops up back, again. So with all that being said, I mean, remember when we first started, there was nothing but wrecks, and then we were green for a while, or whatever it was when we first debuted this track stuff. Remember that?
Yep.
And it was vice versa, and then back and forth. I think after a while, everyone's starting to test the waters, starting to get a little bit more, okay, well, I'm used to this, I know what to do. And the more that they test the waters, the more they can form up their little packs and, march forward and be more comfortable with whatever line they're going to run.
Well, great to see you get that podium finish last week. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us. So we'll let you get back to it. Here's the pace car pulls off. Best of luck here tonight.
Thanks. I'll see you in a bit.
Jessica Shelton
User was
going
moved
to
out of your
restart. It
channel.
looks like back just outside the top 20 in the 22nd position. We ended up having 21 drivers stay out under this yellow flag. Everybody else came to pit road. Going to be able to make it a little further on fuel. Jeff Crivello, the pole sitter, gets us back underway. Looks like a much cleaner restart all the way through the field as they'll make their way to turn 1.
Green flag on lap 6 of 66.
Yep.
I think I saw a puff of smoke coming out of somebody toward the back of the pack on that initial start, but looks like everything is like everybody's up to speed, thankfully.
.931 Robert Breedlove way back there. Not sure what that's all about. I don't even think I saw him involved in that wreck. But I think he's going to lose touch with the pack here.
Might have just been sleeping on the restart.
Could very well have been. May think we may not be done with cautions too. Might be just hanging back there, biding his time as 3 wide through the tri-oval. Josh Metallic going to go up there. Didn't have any help for a moment. Now he'll pick up the 82 of Craig Hagley. A couple of playoff contenders making their way forward. Hagley just above the cut line. Metallic just below the cut line. So trying to work together here. And, you think about it too. I remember I was talking with, I think it was Joe DeSpirito last week, asking, you're a non-playoff driver. Were there any playoff contenders that approached you, said, hey, I know you're fast at the super speedways. If you're willing to work with me, I'll push you to a win. I can really use the points. There's got to be some co-opetition going on here tonight, right? Because your friends are where you find them, and if you need to make up points, you got to have a group of drivers willing to work with you.
Absolutely, you don't have anybody to work with. You're not gonna get anywhere on a super speedway.
3 wide. That's going to be for the 5th position. I believe that is John Godfrey on the bottom in the 711. Former champion Demar in the 43 in the middle. Mike Mangialardi up high, wide, and handsome, and he might get put 4 wide as Glenn Harris. He was shading up there like he was trying to get to the right rear quarter panel there through 1 and 2. Still looking to the outside of the 29, so keep an eye on that.
Kazi looking for the race lead. Has help from Donnie Garrett in the 77. Going to the outside of Dunn LaPrade. LaPrade won here the last time we were at Burt Screwdriver Speedway 2 weeks ago. That was his first win in this series.
Well, I thought the 8 was about to be 4 wide for a second.
He keeps looking, doesn't he? He keeps trying to get to the outside of Mangialardi, and we don't see them go 4 wide very often here. I don't know if he's looking or if he's just pushing up there through the corner, because the ideal situation when you're the car that is pushing another car through the corner, you don't want to be on their left rear quarter panel, because that means you're taking the corner shorter than they are, and that means that you're more than likely going to pull right up to their back bumper, and you don't want to make contact. If you try and be up on that right rear quarter panel, you're taking the longer way around the corner, and you can keep the draft a little bit tighter. Maybe that's what he's doing, he's just pushing up a little too much, but it's certainly looking like he's trying to make a 4th line. Kyle, you mentioned about that 00 of Kelly Causey. We can remember back to one of the races just nearing the end of the regular season at Talladega. Causey looked like he was en route to picking up a victory, found himself 2 laps short on fuel, and that was under caution. Had to come to pit road, give up that victory. He pointed his way into the playoffs, but we know he can be up front when it matters the most. A driver in a must-win situation here tonight. It looks like his goal is clear. Get to the front, stay at the front.
I mean, that's going to be the most good strategy as you can get. You stay up at the front, you avoid all the wrecks. So it's all going to come down to if we have green flag pit stops as well. Which, if my math calculations are correct, which they are wrong 99% of the time, went back to green on lap 6, so we should probably see them coming onto pit road, probably between laps 25 and 26.
Well, you're correct in that math, but that's only for the drivers that came to pit road. We ended up having 21 drivers who stayed out, so they'd have to come to pit road sooner than that. More than likely somewhere between laps 22 to 23. Fourth place. Here comes Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
To the inside of Richard Martin. He's going to pass him and actually pull up alongside of Grant Wesley coming off of turn 4. Grant, another of the playoff contenders. You know he's got to be looking for some redemption from last season. Ended up missing, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks of the season due to work. Was not high enough in the point standings for a victory to count towards a playoff position. And he had to just finish out the season as a non-playoff contender. Made the playoffs this season with a victory. He's 20 points to the good above the cut line coming into tonight. And looking for his second win of season 64.
See on the bottom right there, Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Looking for the race lead on the bottom. That's help from Donnie Garrett in the 77.
Kyle's only been in the booth, 4 or 5 weeks, and he already knows to make that pause at the end of Randy Waugh's name.
I'm a quick learner.
What was it? We were in the Maverick race, and Randy Waugh introduced himself, and Michael chimed in, Luigi, even over there.
Yep.
Can't escape it.
Nope. Hi, my name is Randy Waugh. Luigi.
Got a lot of playoff contenders up here at the front right now inside of the top 6, top 7. Donnie Garrett in the 2nd position. Dunn LaPrade, a couple weeks removed from his first career win, in the 3rd spot. And 5th car on that inside line, you can see the very familiar yellow-blue Wrangler throwback of Rodney Sullins, making his way up now into the 5th position.
There's a couple Dale Earnhardt throwbacks out there. We saw the number 8, which is a GM Goodwrench car. Now you see the Wrangler colors.
You know what's actually funny is, I don't know if it still takes place, but I used to race with these guys on Monday nights in the Barebone Racing Series. Rodney Sullins, Glenn Harris, both raced in that series, and they would always, on Monday nights, establish who was running the Dale Sr. throwback for the Thursday night race, and then the other one would run the other paint scheme. They wanted to make sure that they ended up not having both the Dale Earnhardt schemes at the same time. Well, here tonight, they're both running the Dale Sr. paint schemes, so I don't know if they had the meeting Monday or if they just decided, you know what, let's run whatever we want to run.
Well, at least one's Wrangler and one's Goodwrench.
So you can tell them apart at least, yep.
Yep, that's always a good thing.
We don't have the Grant Wesley, Ken Roberts situation we had a couple seasons ago.
See Joe DeSpirito leading that outside line. Guy has more momentum than anybody right now. It's a shame he's not in the playoffs, or he'd be a major contender for the championship the way he's been running. Won last week.
2-time winner on the season, but both those wins at Talladega. He's yet to pick up a win here at Burnt Screwdrivers this season, so looking to do just that, and looking as well to be the first 3-time winner on the season. He and Tim Nofsker, the only 2 drivers that have won multiple times here in season 64. Couple of drivers working their way up into the top 10, that inside line. Cy Jones in the Sunoco number 7. Unofficially in the 8th position. Terry Bombard right behind him in the 10. And Jessica Shelton, who was behind that stack up when Denny Carroll had his issue on the initial lap. She's now up here. I believe she's unofficially crossed the line in the 12th position in that 9 car, 1 week removed from the podium finish. You look to her
Behind
outside,
her.
there's also Chuck McClure, who was swept up in that lap 1 incident.
And right behind Shelton, you see Bob Dixon having a pretty good run right here. Won here at Burnt Screwdriver back in, what week was that? It was the first race I did with you
I
guys.
think it was I want to say race 6. I think
Race
it was
5,
I think it was
race
3,
6, something
I
like
think it
that.
was 3 races before the playoffs began. There is an idling engine up ahead of these drivers. I believe it is the 6 of Brian Rawson, who is going to go a lap down. We saw Robert Breedlove lose touch with the lead pack. He has since gone to the garage area to join Tom Dixon. So 37 cars running. We're about to have only 36 of them on the lead lap when they eventually catch this Mark Martin throwback. And let's keep an eye on this because
Number
they are
6,
3
that's
wide.
More of a Terry Labonte, Darrell Waltrip type throwback right there, the Budweiser colors.
Looks like they're all going to make their way by. I was a little concerned seeing the 3 wide towards the back of the pack here.
It's only 4 wide that you have to be concerned about.
Well, they were 4 wide. So that's why I was concerned.
Tell you
So
what,
was your face.
all the offline races
Whoa!
I've seen, four wide never works. I can't imagine it being much better in online, but
Hey, I've seen 4 wide work in an offline race at Talladega before.
it's rare. It does, but
John Godfrey had himself a moment through the tri-oval. I don't know if he clipped the apron, might have gotten a bad bump, but he was down below the yellow line for a brief moment, was able to mesh back up into traffic safely. And we'll continue to battle Grant Wesley side by side for the 4th position as Rodney Sullins out in front and leading this race. Rodney 15 points below the cut line. Now, mathematically, with 39 drivers taking the green here tonight and now a guaranteed finish no lower than 37th, he mathematically could point his way into the next round. But it's certainly looking like, with how quickly he worked his way up here to the front of the field, even a driver minus 15 below the cut line, it may potentially be in the must-win mentality. Keep an eye on the top left of your screen there as the lap counter continues to tick upward. We're getting into that window where drivers that did not come to pit road under our first and only caution back on lap 1 will have to start thinking about coming to pit road about 3-4 laps sooner than those that did come to pit lane. Now, they would have been able to save some fuel under the pacing laps, which is why I'm thinking that we'll see them pit a little bit further past the window that we're normally used to seeing, somewhere maybe lap 22, 23, but we're very close to that, and actually we might be, I think I'm actually seeing some radios lighting up right now, so we'll keep an eye on this pack. We might have some drivers coming in.
I was just informed that the drivers that pitted under that caution, 5 projected laps.
Nobody inside of the top 7 came to pit road under that yellow, so they'd be really close to having to pit. Looks like Cy Jones is coming down pit lane, and he's going to be all by himself. Really woed it down to make sure he made pit road speed. And we'll see more drivers in more than likely this lap. I think I'm seeing more radios lighting up there. Sullins, DeSpirito, Causey, Godfrey, Randy Waugh, Grant Wesley, and Donnie Garrett. They all stayed out under the last yellow. Chuck McClure, okay, there you see. You saw the 17, the 088 jump up to the middle line. They can go further. I think the top 6 are coming to pit road this lap.
And 4 project laps for the drivers that pitted, so
got a bunch of them coming in this time, including some playoff contenders. Oh, Sandoval. He hit the wall with the left front. I don't think he hit anybody else. But 4 of our playoff drivers on pit road here with Garrett, LaPrade, Dixon, and Sandoval.
We've seen plenty of mistakes take place during green flag pit stops. If I can speak here,
Easy
that'd
for
be
you to
nice.
say.
Yeah. Here over the last couple of weeks, and we have another round.
And drivers have said that this is actually a slightly more difficult pit road to get onto than Talladega is. And we've seen execution on pit road be a huge difference maker in all of this. Here's a big group of cars coming in. We're 3 wide, almost 4 wide coming down pit road. It's like highway rush hour traffic, but I think they all got onto pit lane safely. Even Terry Bombard, who was very wide coming in, I think he got to the left of the commitment cone. Question is now, did they all get it woed down to pit road speed? I'm taking a quick glance over at the telemetry, seeing we don't always get the information if somebody got hit with a black flag or not, but when we see it, we let you guys know, and so far, nothing, but we'll wait until that big group of pit stops completes. Jeremy Jeffries, who missed out on the playoffs, had a couple of engine failures in the last couple of races in the regular season. Going to lead this group down. Bernie Mobbs, great save as that car was slideways. Looks like Mark Paglia, the only playoff contender coming down with this group. And now we wait to see how it all cycles around.
Curious to see how much it's going to break up the pack here. That's what we usually see with green flag pit stops.
24 of Joe DeSpirito leading the group. That was the second pack to come down pit road. If you look a little further back, that high line, that's Randy Waugh, who led the first pack down pit road. They were completely up to speed, now catching up to this group, so we'll see how much ground they can make up before everybody is up to full song. Looks like he's going to at least get up to the 6th position, trying to chase down the top 5, as DeSpirito should cycle to the race lead.
Everyone doing a good job merging back on in the traffic there. I was concerned about that at first, but they all made it work.
So far looking, I don't see anybody that went under the scrutiny of the pit officials. Looks like everybody were able to make their pit stops cleanly. So great job executing this first round of green flag pit stops here. Now a third of the way through tonight's elimination race. Brian Schilling in the 4 actually missed that. He stayed out an extra lap. He'll get himself a bonus point, but now he's going to get freight trained by this single file line. We'll have to see where the 4 cycles around to. Brian, the regular season champion, came into this race 19 points above the cut line. Remember, he and Tim Nofsker, a couple of other playoff contenders, I think Grant Wesley as well, got caught up in incidents on the final lap of last week's race and lost out on a lot of points. They're above the cut line, but not nearly as good a cushion as they probably would have been in had they finished where they were running when they took the white.
And that incident also ended his top 5 streak to start the season, which was extremely impressive.
Which, by the way, thank you for bringing that up, because I was corrected, and I deserved to be corrected. I said last week that I was pretty sure Brian Schilling was the first driver to ever finish in the top 5 in all regular season races. That was incorrect. Joe DeSpirito, our race leader, actually was the first driver to ever do it. So Schilling became the second driver to finish in the top 5 in all regular season races. So only 2 drivers have done it in Tally Challenge history. I also found out as well last week, Michael ended up hitting Joe DeSpirito in the post-race interviews with a wrestling reference of the primetime players, and we talked afterwards. I wasn't exactly sure if Joe understood that reference. Well, when he and I were having a little conversation about him being the first driver to ever finish in the top 5 in all regular season races, we also ended up sending a couple of Roman Reigns gifts, and he acknowledged him as his tribal chief, so I think he did get the reference.
It's just amazing how many, fans of racing are also fans of professional wrestling.
Well, sometimes you see some wrestling matches in racing, so... John West Townley with one of the most horrible takedowns on Spencer Gallagher I've ever seen in my life.
But yeah, I did. That is true. And of course, they got JR to do commentary for that, which was great.
Yes, they did. So it looks like in this lead pack, we've got 22 drivers. Then there's about another 1.5 gap to some stragglers who have formulated their own pack, about 5-6 drivers there. There are a number of drivers, however, that could be in danger in the next 5 laps or so of falling off the lead lap. Keith Bynum, he's only about 10 seconds ahead of the race leaders. Cy Jones, Glenn Harris, who's starting the outside of the front row, Bobby Farrell, all right now running about 25 or more seconds behind the leader, which puts them about half a lap down. Those drivers clamoring for a yellow flag to save them and get them back caught up to the tail end of the field. But up here at the front, look at the playoff drivers lined up behind Despirito. Despirito's been the playoff spoiler so far, getting that win last week and denying an automatic ticket. You've got Sullins, playoff contender in second. Wesley, playoff contender in third. McClure, playoff contender in fourth. And then Novsker, playoff contender in fifth. And you don't have to go too further back to find more. You've got Donnie Garrett 7th, Dunlap Pratt 8th, Kelly Causey 9th, and Ulysses Sandoval, despite getting into the wall there at the entrance of pit road, good execution on his pit stop, and he's up here inside of the top 10, trying to get back those points he lost last week with the post-race penalty.
Talk about the cream rising. You see you mentioned all those playoff guys up here, so.
Josh Metallic trying to make something happen back here. Gets to a point where you're riding single file, and you're the second half of that formation, and you're like, I don't want to ride here anymore. Let's try and make something happen. So Metallic pulls down
Make
low,
your face
picks up
happen.
Godfrey. Huh?
Said make your face happen.
Okay.
Yeah, face joke. Woo.
When you cheer for your own face joke.
I apologize for being slightly under the weather here.
Well, if you were over
I
the weather,
missed,
you'd be in an airplane, and I don't know how you'd be able to commentate this race.
Well, I mean, some airplanes have Wi-Fi.
They have Wi-Fi, but I don't know if it's good enough to be able to commentate an NR race.
I could imagine everyone.
Can you imagine the people on the plane just like, just shut up?
Yep.
What are you talking about?
That was exactly what I was about to say, too.
That's why I buy out the whole plane, so nobody complains.
Battle from lap cars up here.
That's Keith Bynum. And I believe the lap car of Brian Rawson, who's now going to go 2 laps down. Bynum will be the only car 1 lap down, so he would be in the lucky dog position to get back on the lead lap if we were to have a yellow. Brian Rawson now 2 laps down. He is the second car off the lead lap, so he would get one of his 2 laps back.
Boy, he really wasn't giving a lot of room there.
And here comes more drivers to the inside line trying to make something happen. Chuck McClure. Despirito noticed that. He jumps down to cover, and now Rodney Sullins, Grant Wesley left alone on that top side. You know, Joe talked about the fact he hates the fact he's not in the playoffs, especially with the great start he had here last week with that checkered flag, but not being a playoff contender, not having to worry about that aspect of the postseason, it gives him a little bit more freedom, a little bit more levity to be able to be more aggressive, stay up at the front, throw the necessary blocks to be able to lead laps, ultimately try and gain more checkered flags here before the close of the season.
He doesn't have the pressure that these other guys have. So, I mean, you can, like you mentioned, he can go out there and, do whatever he wants with really nothing to lose.
Halfway home here in our first elimination race of the season. We're also going to bring up the fact that there is a slight issue going on with RTG's website. We were made aware of that before the broadcast went live. We're going to try and do our best to give you guys an idea of who the 8 drivers are that are moving on to the next round, but we're not going to be saying it as official. We may not end up having the official standings available to you tonight like we normally have every week, so stay tuned. There may be some workaround where we actually will have those points, but it is possible we will have unofficial Elite 8 announced drivers here tonight, and we'll give the confirmation next week in the 3rd playoff race.
At some point, we'll get it.
Yep. Couple of 2-time winners. Side by side for the lead. Nofsker, the defending champion of the series. Good push around the outside from Rodney Sullins. Will take the lead from Joe DeSpirito. First time tonight that the 088 has been out in front.
When that outside lane falls and it gets reformed, it doesn't take long for it to get back up there. After halfway here, Seth, I mean, you got your eye on anybody?
Anyone that's a playoff driver.
Yeah,
like Kyle said, the cream rises to the top. We saw, after the green flag pit stops, there were about 7-8 of them up inside of the top 10.
Yeah, well, Kyle also predicted Jess to win the Royal Rumble, and then she immediately got eliminated, so...
Yeah, but that's wrestling, not racing.
Thanks for the heavy pause there.
You're welcome. So if we're looking right now at playoff contenders that could be in trouble, all of the playoff contenders are still up in this lead pack. You see Craig Hagley and that Harry Gant skull throw back there at the very tail end of this group. He is in the 26th position. He is the last running playoff contender. So they're all up here in the lead pack. But right now, drivers that are playoff contenders that are at the very tail end of the field right now, including Hagley. You got Mark Paglia back there, Brian Schilling as well. They're going to at some point have to start making some forward progress. Schilling 19 points above the cut line, Paglia 21 points above the cut line, but for Craig Hagley, the bad news for him is Ulysses Sandoval is running up in the middle of this group. If we're looking at those two specifically, one just above the cut line, one just below the cut line. Sandoval was 14th crossing the line last time by, Hagley 26th. That's 12 positions, which puts Sandoval above the cut line by 3 points.
Oh, that just means Ulysses needs to get up to the front.
We know that they're going to have to make at least one more pit stop before the conclusion of this race as well. They all came to pit road between laps 23 to 25.
Closing in on pit stops again. I was just informed.
This can't be the 8 and the 88 up here again. Or the 88 and the 088.
It is.
And yes, Kyle, what were you informed of?
It's just informed that the drivers that pitted first in this race under that first caution, they're about 5 projected laps, so keep an eye on that.
So that would take us to 43, which would put them short of making it the rest of the way.
Without another caution.
You gotta get to at least the completion of lap 46 to be able to make it on 2 cans of fuel. And that's if you're not leading the entire last run. So those drivers that you just mentioned there, Kyle, that did not come to pit road under our only caution so far tonight back on lap 1, they won't be able to make it. They're going to have to come to pit road later on in this event for more than likely a splash and go. I don't even see a scenario of them being able to save the 3 or 4 laps that they would be lacking.
Unless we get a caution.
That's the only way.
Grant going to get the outside lane, going to get the run and momentum off the corner.
We sure don't look like we're getting ready for green flag pit stops here. 2 by 2 by 2 all the way back through this lead pack.
It's like people are going to be pitting this time by.
And hopefully nobody from that second lane, because it's going to be pretty tough to get yourself down there to the inside unless the car to your left is pitting, but then you don't know if the car to your 8 o'clock is coming down pit road. You don't want to turn across their nose.
Okay, nobody in this lead pack is. Projected laps are really close right now, so.
I see some stuff lighting up.
Looking to see if anybody on this outside line tries kind of bailing out to be able to find their way to the bottom or try and find a hole down there. Little gap from the 21 back to the 77. I saw a gap from Sandoval back to the 33. Here come a few on pit road here from this group. These are some of the drivers that came down pit road of the first group of 4.
Oh, good luck. Pratt gets hit from behind. Great save.
He saves it, but does that shoot him over pit road speed? It does average out, but...
I don't think he was hit from behind. I think he just kind of got his brakes locked up.
Oh, no, he got help. He got help from the 33 of Graham McDonald.
I guess I'll find out then.
Yeah.
Randy Waluigi is pitting as well.
Donnie Garrett, another of our playoff drivers. You'll see Sandoval was also in.
Cheeseburger.
They can't make it. Those drivers cannot make it on fuel. They are about 5 laps short. I think Grant might be pitting this time. And he's going to have to do so from the second lane. Oh, contact! Oh! John Godfrey, Craig Hagley. That will probably bring out a yellow.
No,
where's the 7-Eleven? There he is. He's rolling. There was no oncoming traffic when they got together. It was the tail end of a pack. And yeah, we're staying green.
Caution. Yep.
Oh, the 143's on the apron unless he just came off pit road.
Hagley, I think, ended up getting shot on the outside of the commitment cone. He's still going to try and get here to his pit stall. That was the cut line driver. He could not afford that. Doug Kulik, we also saw, was spun around at the entrance of pit road. I'm not sure who it was that made contact with him. Here come another group in. Oh, Jeffrey Elliott. He's not going to make pit lane. Nofsker, McClure, Causey, Metallic, all 4 of those drivers right there. Playoff contenders. Jeffrey Elliott, I don't know where he is on the fuel number, but hopefully he can make it back around one more time without running out of fuel after he missed pit road entry.
The first round of green flag stops was fairly clean. Can't say the same about this one.
Well, I mean, we get closer towards the end of the race. This isn't necessarily the money stop because I don't think anybody can make it on fuel, but you get to that first round of green flag pit stops. Okay, well, we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll be a little bit more conservative on pit road. Get to the second round. I got to gain track position. I got to push the edge a little bit, and that's where we see the mistakes start happening as we get closer towards the end.
And we see this, Grant leading and stuff now. He's not even the leader right now. You said the rest of them cycled around, but none of these drivers can make it if they all pit just now.
Nope, everybody is going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 laps short on fuel. Everybody's going to have to come down pit road and take anywhere from... Well, honestly, I think all of them would be able to make it on a half can. Unless you're the race leader, you might have to take on a can of fuel. Not 100% certain on that. But we'll look and see how this all cycles around. Checking scoring again. I do not see anybody that got hit with a speeding penalty, including Dunn LaPrade, who had that hit from behind by Graham McDonald on pit road. And he's going to cycle up inside of the top 10.
I saw it looked like maybe the 28 or somebody down there just came up off the apron almost LePage the field.
Well, they are allowed to merge in turn 1. Leaders are supposed to give them that lane and take the middle groove going through 1 and 2 if there are drivers merging back onto the racetrack, but might have gotten a little close for comfort.
Notice the same thing with that 28 car on the first round of green flag pit stops.
Are we under yellow? Yes, we are.
I'm sure somebody got wrecked back there.
Yeah, I noticed them fanning out there, making sure they don't run each other over. More than likely throwing in the clutch with frozen field. So our second caution of the night on lap 44. And gentlemen,
let's see who was involved.
This caution, if we pit, we should be able to make it now.
Yeah, but you don't want to pit now. You want to wait another lap or 2. Maybe Godfrey involved or somebody, because...
We had a blow up. We had a mechanical failure. And it was a playoff driver.
Oh, don't tell me it was Ulysses.
Mark Paglia. Engine expires, it looks like, out of turn number 2. He was just coming back out onto the racetrack as we saw the leaders going around him. And this may have been an early upshift. Let's see. Or does he money shift? Yep. He money shift. Was going to go to 4th gear. Money shifted down to neutral.
Or second.
And just like that, Paglia's potential playoff hopes could be going up in smoke. He was 21 points to the good, but all the other playoff contenders are running and at this point on the lead lap. So he's going to have to hope for a race of attrition, some other playoff drivers to run into some problems in these final 20 laps if he's going to have a shot of moving on. Here they all come. This pit stop going to be with coming to 21 laps to go. Kelly Causey going to stay out, so he'll get a lap-led bonus point. Jeffrey Elliott, who we saw miss the entrance to pit road, he's retired out of the race, so 4 drivers officially will not reach the conclusion. Paglia, who just had the mechanical problem, Jeffrey Elliott, Robert Breedlove, and Tom Dixon. Scoring showed Cy Jones and Keith Bynum. The first 2 cars 1 lap down, so they'll get the free passes. Just missing out on that lucky dog, Craig Hagley, who we saw also ended up missing pit road and was through the infield grass, slowly trying to make his way to his pit stall. If these drivers pit, I almost wonder if the 82 might take a wave around. I know he can't make it on fuel, but hey, you got to try something, right? You can't ride the final 20 laps of this race off the lead lap, hope for a caution that way.
I mean, got nothing to lose at this point.
Brian Rossi, the only other lap down car,
see.
-2. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there, Michael.
Nope, you're going to say we're just going to have to wait and see, you know, with and how everything's going to play out here. If you pit now, you'll have just enough gas to make it. But that's not including if you're leading.
So Kelly Causey, Chuck McClure, playoff drivers, it look like they're going with the strategy you talked about, Michael, pitting the second time by, having that extra lap of security. It'll be interesting to kind of look towards the tail end of the field, see if any other playoff drivers that already pit, if they're still going to come back down again and top off the fuel tank. Looks like 8 and 9 drivers stayed out and will pit. Oh, Chuck's going to stay out an extra lap. This is smart. You're going to get the bonus point for a lap led, and you come to pit road at the 1 to green. I like this call. I mean, he's the points leader, 33 points above the cut line.
And
Give
before
yourself
they get
every bit of security you can.
And before they get the 1 to green this time by?
There are lap cars. There won't be.
No, I know. I'm just... Stay that
look
1 lap too long.
Looking at the tail end here, let's see, none of the other playoff drivers that had already pit are on pit road. We might see some of them dive down here at the 1 to green along with Chuck McClure. So as of right now, if we're looking at the playoff contenders that have led a lap so far, that bonus point could be important at the end of the night. McClure, obviously, with a lap led here. Grant Wesley has led 2. Rodney Sullins has led 6. Nofsker has led 7. Dunn LaPrade has led 1. Brian Schilling has led 4. And Kelly Causey has led 2. So those are the drivers right now that are playoff contenders that have that bonus point locked away for leading at least 1 lap here tonight. Joe DeSpirito, non-playoff driver, has led the most laps so far this evening, 9 circuits out in front. Saw the 82 come to pit road, so Hagley will not take the wave around. He will be relying on a future caution to get him the free pass, get him back on the lead lap. Well, so far here tonight, guys, we had that initial caution at the drop of the green flag for a mechanical problem that stacked them all up. Second caution comes out for a mechanical failure, the engine expiring on Mark Paglia. So we've not necessarily, yes, we did have a crash as a result of the Denny Carroll gear failure back on lap 1, but we haven't necessarily had a wreck that has been started due to contact cause.
I was
Here
about to
comes
say,
McClure down pit
it
road.
looked like he wasn't going to pit, and then he suddenly darted down.
He faked them all out. I feel like, Kyle, you made the Jim Ross reference. To quote him, I feel like business is about to pick up.
Oh, yes.
I feel like somebody's watching me.
Yeah, that's me.
Why are you watching me?
There's the one to go signal right to pace. The lights on the pace car off.
Cy Jones going around getting his lap back. I see Keith Bynum back there. He's supposed to also be the free pass car. At least that's what scoring showed, and he's still back there.
The lights on the pass car.
Just don't pace that pass car. There goes Keith. But you see all these drivers throwing in the clutch, trying to save every bit of fuel. It's going to be close for them. We're going to go back green with 18 laps to go. Grant Wesley, the leader. Rodney Sullins will line up second. Joe DeSpirito, Terry Bombard, Tim Knopfsker. That's the top 5. Dunn LaPrade in 6th. Josh Metallic 7th. Then Donnie Garrett, Denny Carroll, and Jessica Shelton going to be your top 10. Believe that is 6 playoff contenders starting up inside of the top 10. Brian Schilling will restart 11th. Ulysses Sandoval in 13th. You got to go all the way down to 24th to find Kelly Causey. And then Chuck McClure down in 29th. But remember that the 00 and the 17, they both came to pit road on the 2nd and 3rd lap of caution. Bob Dixon back in the 31st position with Craig Hagley 1 lap down in 34th. That is where your 13 playoff contenders are running in preparation for this restart with less than 20 to go. We'll show you again the points graphic. This is what it looks like coming into tonight, the relative to 8th in the standings. Who's going to move their way in? Who potentially is going to fall out? Who's going on to the round of 8 starting next week at Talladega? Grant Wesley going to bring us down through the tri-oval. He'll get us back underway here tonight in our first elimination race of season 64. Keep an eye mid-pack. Remember that 41 Denny Carroll, no 3rd gear, so he's going to woe them up a little bit here through the center of 1 and 2. Like he got going pretty good there. Brian Schilling behind him, well, now jumps up to that outside line.
Let's see if he can't try to get his top 5 streak back. Think maybe he can do it?
Kyle, you want to weigh in on that?
Do what?
The Schilling top 5 streak beginning again. You want to weigh in on that one?
I mean, he had... It's possible.
He almost had it last time.
I was going to say, did we put the commentator curse, Kyle credited for the commentator curse on Schilling last week? I don't remember.
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Well, if the numbers are as close as I'm thinking that they are, you know, Knopfsker looking for his 3rd win on the season, Grant looking for his 2nd, but do you want to be out in front, leading, consuming more fuel than everybody else?
I don't know.
Catch 22.
It is. It really is.
I was informed by Jessica right there. Speaking of fuel, it said for her that it's been fluctuating between a splash and none, so it's going to be right on the mark for a lot of these drivers.
Splash and none, normally at a super speedway, means you can make it. When it hits a half can, then you're in trouble. So, at least for drivers back in her area there, latter half of the top 10, they're all around the same numbers. They should be able to make it. But if they're at splash to none, I don't think that these top two can be anywhere in that conversation. We'll get about 5, 6, 7 laps into this run. I think they're going to start seeing it fluctuating between splash and half can. But they feel the track position is too important to save the fuel. They're banking on another yellow to be able to have more laps of caution to save the fuel necessary to get to the end.
And who's at the very front of the field here? 2 playoff drivers, Tim Nofsker and Grant Wesley. So, boy, that's got to be nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at the blanket you could throw over playoff contenders. You have Metallic up here, Garrett, LaPrade, Sullins, Schilling, Sandoval. One wrong move and you could have over a half dozen playoff contenders with damage here in the final stages of this race. And then it's kind of a
who's leading that
who's who
outside
for
lane.
survivors.
Third lane, look who's leading it. Well,
Jessica
it was
Shelton.
Jess.
Well, now it's Joe DeSpirito. But yeah,
Well, just talked about earlier on tonight how good it's been to be working with Joe DeSpirito, Bob Seminary. You saw make that DeSpirito jump up in front of her. Grant's going to jump up in front of DeSpirito, and now
Killed that momentum.
Yeah, it might stall out that third lane, that middle line losing a little bit of momentum as well.
who's that behind her? Is that Seminara? Or...
Yes, it is.
Yeah, those 3 worked well together last week at Talladega, and they're all 3 lined up again here.
Grant's going to find his way back down into the middle line. Nofsker out in clear air for the moment. Metallic, Garrett, LaPrade, Schilling, top 5 playoff drivers. You'll see Sandoval now looking for 6th. The driver that he's chasing right now, Craig Hagley, who is currently the only car 1 lap down in 34th. Live points would put Sandoval in, drop Hagley out below the cut line.
Ulysses now going to lead that middle groove.
Everybody up in this lead pack. I believe with the exception of the lap machine of Brian Rawson. Oh, contact! There goes Jeremy Jeffries up in the air. Same for Richard Martin. And the back straightaway is littered with race cars. The big one has struck here on lap 54.
That is not good. The 17 was involved in that.
Brian Rawson flying into this. This is the caution Craig Hagley needed. But Joe DeSpirito, who led a ton of laps here tonight. Jeremy Jeffries, who is out in front earlier on this evening.
I think Jeffries was the first one I saw go around.
Yep, same for me as well. This caution also going to help Nofsker, Grant Wesley, some of those that would have been really, really close on fuel, maybe borderline not able to make it. This will be 3, 4 valuable laps that they'll have. This was up towards the front of the field as well. I think it was inside of the top 10.
Did the 43 just push up too much? Oh no, the one got turned.
Bad bump maybe there from Grant Wesley?
And Jess just almost made it through.
Nowhere for...
She had a light tap at the rear of her car, but I think she's all right.
43
Yeah,
of Richard Martin went up and over.
Yeah, then there's no damage on the 9.
DeSpirito. Jeremy Jeffries almost blew over, but we'll see how his car is.
I don't think he got hit by anybody else after his blowover. Demar not quite as lucky.
It's funny, fancy seeing that coming at you in the camera view.
Kind of reminds me of that one race, I think it was at Daytona, when Chase Elliott went up on the wall coming towards the camera.
Oh, 2017. Yep.
I want to go back to this camera shot again, replay this camera shot again, and go back a little bit earlier. It almost looked like, to me, potentially a combination bumper grab bad bump. I think Jeremy Jeffries was into the back of the 38, and when he bumper grabbed, it stalled his momentum, and that brought Wesley into the back of the 1. Let's watch right here.
Oh, I hope they don't.
It's hard to tell.
I wonder if they'll call that on Wesley. Did the 96 make it through that?
96 was ahead of that, I believe. Well, it's taken on board. 43 of Richard Martin. Just on the inside line, kind of minding his own business, and all of a sudden, this happens on the back straightaway.
I'm gonna go on board with the 9 car. See how looked like she was what I could get through that thing at the very last second.
Had maybe just enough room for a car to be able to slip through between the airborne 43 and the outside wall. Oh!
Just got clipped by the 43.
Just at the last minute. See if we can find another good onboard here. How about Chuck McClure? Little bump into the back of Seminara, little tap from Bobby Farrell. Aside from potentially 4 brand new Goodyear tires, he should be okay. Remember, McClure put himself back in that traffic with some pit strategy there, coming down pit road in the latter stages of the previous caution period to take on a little bit of extra fuel. Same for Kelly Causey. They were both back behind that incident, and it appears like the 88 of Grant Wesley has, well, actually, no. I was waiting for scoring to update. Wesley's still up inside of the top 10, so yeah, we don't know who that incident would have been called on. Could be Racing Deal. You never know. It'll be in the incident report here during the course of the week. But Josh Metallic going to be the race leader here when we go back green. Brian Rawson, he'll get one of his 2 laps back. Craig Hagley will be back on the lead lap. That's the last thing that Ulysses Sandoval wanted to see, because now that puts him and the 82 on the same lap together. However, not a whole lot of time going to be available here to the 82. When we go back green, oh, we're already south of 10 laps remaining. We'll probably be around 8 laps, I think, to go when we get the green flag once again. Well, next week, we will have 8 playoff contenders ready to begin the second round of the playoffs. Journey comes to an end tonight for 5 of our original 13 playoff drivers. Talladega Superspeedway ready to set the table for an opportunity of a driver to lock themselves into the Final 4. That'll be next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the night before, we've got the continuation of the 2025 season for the Esports Oval League's Grind Cup Series. They're going to be taking on Miles the Monster, the concrete mile racetrack known as Dover. We had an incredible race
We've had our fair share of Dover races. I kind of actually like racing at Dover.
Oh, I love racing at Dover. And we'll be seeing those drivers 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday night. So be sure to join us for both of those events. Back-to-back nights, Wednesday, Thursday.
I've actually raced over on iRacing, so yeah, it's pretty fun.
Have you raced it in the next gen car?
Yes, I have.
What's it feel like? Good, bad?
Good, bad. In between.
In between?
I've raced it in NR 2003, and I've raced it in countless NASCAR console games, and Dover's always been fun, I think.
I love it in 2003. I was talking with our broadcast colleague Scott Rankin about what to expect next week, and we've had a lot of racetracks where tires have been prevalent. We had the Legacy Atlanta. We just this past last night had Kansas, which was really abrasive on the right front tire, and said next week we're going to be abusing the word tires in our commentary because drivers are going to be clamoring for new Goodyears not too long after each one of the green flags are waved. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We've seen a lot of strategy, tires and fuel played out in those races. Next week, feel like it's going to be no exception. The question is, how big of an appetite does Miles the Monster have?
Everybody clamoring for tires not long after a run starts. It sounds like an old race at like Rockingham or Darlington back in the day. That's
Yeah.
what that track was. Both of those tracks.
Don't have Rockingham on their schedule. They do have Darlington, though. All right, so it'll be 8 laps to go. When we get back green, we do still have a lap machine. 1 lap down, the 6 of Brian Rawson, so our point of no return mark would be at completion of lap 62, where next flag would end the race. We'll be about 4 laps shy of that on this upcoming restart. Metallic the leader, Nofsker in second, LaPrade, Donnie, Garrett, that's your top 4 playoff contenders looking to move on to the next round.
Green flag back out. All right. We betting money or no?
I don't have any money to bet right now.
Nor do
don't.
I.
Me neither.
So I guess the rhetorical answer is no.
Even though I do have a new job, I haven't gotten paid yet, so.
Maybe some Monopoly money.
Yeah.
Middle lane gone.
Look at that right there in second. Don LaPrade won here the last time we were at BSR.
He doesn't have his wingman Dante Ricky with him, though. Dante played a big part into helping Dunn get that first win.
Look
Running
at that.
behind a very experienced former champion, though, in Josh Metallic.
Middle lane trying to side draft the outside lane. That's going to hurt their momentum too.
Starting to see both lanes, middle and outside line, breaking up a bit.
There's Ulysses up there in the top 5.
Graham McDonald has now made his way up into the 6th position. Bernie Mobbs up into 7th. Some good runs here for drivers that were kind of mid-pack for most of the night. Now up here in the top 10, trying to get into the conversation for this race victory. Now look at this, Michael. Look who's running in 3rd. Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
If he finishes podium, he can chew you out for interrupting his driver intro on Tuesday night.
I'm not trying to mention his name, because I'm trying not to give him the commentator's curse, but now that you said it, now he's probably going to have it, and it's all going to be your fault.
Since you said the Luigi, we're putting the commentator curse blame on you then.
No, it's on you.
You didn't have to say it.
Oh, I'm going to tell him it's all your fault.
Caution!
Caution! Wow, considered at the same time. It's race back, isn't it?
It is race back. You are correct.
But is it? Do you think we're going to get back green?
Mm-hmm. I think we're going to have a 1-lap shootout.
Oh, Randy Waugh thinking we might not get back green.
Let's make sure we get back to the line here, guys. Don't want to have a follow-up wreck here. Metallic did a good job covering both lanes down the back straightaway. Big shove from Sandoval to Sullins there late through the tri-oval. But Metallic will hang on, and he will be leading us to what might be the green and the white flag at the same time. Question is, though, what brought out this yellow? Oh, a lot of damage on the left side of Jessica Shelton.
And the rear, yeah.
That car looks like it might have been turned up into the wall. Take a look and see what happened. This must have been towards the tail end of the lead pack. Oh, wow. Keith Bynum went up and over as well.
Looks like the 024 just came right up, and
I wouldn't even say that. I think that Bynum just pinched Jess down when he wasn't clear.
I also saw with that hit, it almost kind of looked like somebody may have been side-to-side warping, because normally you don't see that kind of movement out of cars unless somebody's got some kind of a connection problem. Let's look from the chopper cam.
Look, you can see she's inside, and then he just starts to come down, and Jess is trying to like say, "Hey, I'm here."
it looked like Jess held her line right there.
She was in the middle, 3
Yeah.
wide, couldn't go anywhere else. Yeah, just watch this again, kind of use the hash marks as a guide as they're coming out of the tri-oval. Yeah, 024 definitely comes up.
While the 63, I think his number comes down.
Let's look at the far chase if we can on the 9. That should tell the story right here.
We'll even slow it down a bit here. See, watch the 024 comes up. He's a half lane off the bottom. And at that point, I think hitbox comes into play. The 024 and the 9 are both hooked to each other. The 9 disappeared to the other side of the fence there. And Keith Bynum nowhere to be able to go. He had just recently gotten the lucky dog.
I can tell you she's not going to be happy about that. Especially running in the back.
So that brings out the caution, going to set us up here for what I believe is going to be a one-lap shootout.
It's going to be interesting to see which line's going to get the better restart.
And we saw a lot of playoff contenders caught up in a last lap wrecks last week.
If the 39 can knock it clear of the 21, then I feel like it's going to be a real good race. It's going to be who can push who the most.
I'll be surprised if he's not able to clear the 21, because even at a track like Talladega, we'll usually see the car that restarts on the inside of the front row, clears off a turn 2, and then has the choice, does he stay committed to the bottom or move up to that middle groove?
I mean, if it was you, would you commit to the bottom, or would you try to move up, maybe block the run? Because you know that
for a one-lap shootout,
you know the outside lane's going to get the momentum.
Honestly, with this track, I think I'm staying committed to the yellow line.
Now, what do you do if you're some of these guys not on the front row, but you're in the playoffs right now? Do you try to go for the win, or do you just try to stay where you're at and race for points?
With one-lap shootouts, you're kind of stuck going with whoever's in front of you because you're not going to be up to speed enough to even get momentum to make a pass to begin with.
If I'm looking right now, and we'll bring up the points here, kind of looking at who is where, I think if I'm Chuck McClure, if I'm Donnie Garrett, Grant Wesley, Brian Schilling, Tim Nofsker, Dunn LaPrade, I'm not risking anything going for the win. I'm comfortable where I'm running. I know that I've got a good enough cushion. I'm up inside the top 10, top 15. If I net those points, I'm moving on to the next round. Ulysses Sandoval, if I'm him, honestly, I'm content riding where I'm at as well. Because Craig Hagley, he did get back on the tail end of the lead lap the previous caution, but he's only moved his way up to 30th. He's got to close up another 15 positions to be ahead of Ulysses in the live standings for that final position. Now, here's the problem if you're Ulysses Sandoval. Yes, you are ahead of Craig Hagley for the final transfer position, but look who's on the inside of rows 1 and 2. Metallic and Sullins, who came into this race 15 points each below the cut line. If they win, that moves the cut line up. So it's tough. I guess in this situation, normally if I'm Sandoval, I say I'm happy where I'm running. But now as I kind of look at this landscape of where the 39 and 38 are, you got to go for the win. Because if they win, you're out.
I guess we'll find out.
It's looking like right now Kelly Causey, Bob Dixon, a couple of drivers that were in must-win situations, they are in danger of being eliminated. Now, Causey will restart in the 16th position. A lot can happen between the dropping of the green flag and the checkered flag. Bob Dixon back in the 31st position, so it looks like he will more than likely be eliminated. Jury is still out on Mark Paglia as well, let's not forget. 21 points to the good, but out of the race due to a mechanical failure. He may drop out of the top 8. If lights go out, we get a one-lap shootout. There they go. One lap. One lap to decide who's moving on, who's being eliminated in this first round of the playoffs. That seems pretty fitting.
Yep.
All right, usual disclaimer. We're going to keep our camera up at the front of the field. Keep an eye on who is going to win this second playoff race. If trouble breaks out, we'll go back post-race. Look at any necessary replays, especially if they involve any of our playoff contenders. Josh Metallic looking for his first win on the season. More importantly, to lock himself into the next round of the postseason. Live points right now would have him still below the cut line. He needs the checkered flag to advance. Same deal for Rodney Sullins, who's going to be lined up behind him in second. If you're Rodney, what do? You're boxed in. How do you find a way around the 39 with only 2.66 miles to work with?
Well, desperation come into play for some of these guys, too.
As of right now, in the quarterfinals of the loser side of the bracket, Ulysses Sandoval has the advantage on Doug Hewlick. Donnie Garrett has the advantage on Glenn Harris, but all 4 of those drivers are on the lead lap. A lot can change in that regard here on this final lap. Winners of each one of those matchups will go on to face each other next week. Winner of that matchup next week will then face Mike Mangialardi in 2 weeks' time to see who's going to go on and face the winner of the winner's side of the bracket, Brian Schilling. Can you guys hold your breath for an entire lap?
I think that make for some boring commentary
Yeah,
if we all held our breath on this last lap.
I guarantee you, the drivers down there, they're going to be holding their breath. Here we go. Metallic looking to advance into the playoffs. Randy Waugh looking for his first win in the series. Green flag, white flag at the same time. There they wreck at the back of the field. We keep going.
That was stack up, I'm assuming.
Race is going to end under yellow, but only about 16 drivers are going to get away in this lead group. Sullins trying to push Metallic clear, so maybe he can jump up to that outside line. Through 3 and 4, Metallic, Sullins, Dunlaprad, the top 3. Rodney gonna move up.
Looking to the outside.
Can he get help? Can he get the push? Randy too far back, contact further behind them. And Josh Metallic is going to pick up the victory. His first of the season. He will lock himself into the round of 8. LaPrade going to be second. Sullins will bring it home in third. I don't know. I don't believe that's going to be enough for him to advance. But then again, what playoff contenders were swept up in that incident at the start-finish line? That could make a difference. Metallic's win, does that eliminate Sandoval in the 096? As of right now, Metallic is obviously locked in. It looks like LaPrade, Tim Nofsker, Brian Schilling, Grant Wesley, who all finished up inside the top 10, they will all advance, but big question marks about the rest of the drivers. I mean, Chuck McClure came in with a comfortable 33-point advantage. He's going to cross the line in 30th as he was back in the middle of all that. Same for Donnie Garrett, who was 27 points to the good. He crossed the line in 28th.
There might have been multiple wrecks on that last lap.
We'll be going back, taking a look at the replay or replays of what happened, but the Gray Ghost gets to burn it down here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Been a bit of a winless streak for Josh Metallic, but he finally breaks back into victory circle. A big victory here tonight. Must-win situation below the cut line, and he will advance into the next round to fight for the championship in the round of 8. Metallic pulls right up to his pit stall to celebrate with his crew. We'll show you the full finish results here in just a minute, but we're going to go back, take a look at the replay of what brought out the race ending yellow right at the start-finish line. Michael, as you alluded to, stack up on the restart. Not even rightly certain who it started with. I mean, maybe the 880 of Greg Lovell. It was back, I guess, in this area.
They took the green flag, and it looked like a bomb went off, and about half the field just started wrecking. I don't...
Oh, it was Denny Carroll. The 41 we knew had the third gear missing, and it just stacked them all up there on that restart. I thought it was on the inside line. It actually started on the outside line.
Oh, man.
82 of Craig Hagley. Got T-boned. We'll see that here in a minute.
At that point, if you know that you don't have third, I mean, it's a very important gear, and you're running in the middle of the pack, you should have just pulled up to the outside. That kind of reminds me of that one restart where Kevin Harvick did that thing at Talladega. You knew you knew you have a problem, but you still stayed in the pack anyways.
You know you're not going to win the race because the one-lap shootout, you're not going to get enough momentum on the restart, and you've got playoff drivers around and behind you. Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's one thing if you end up losing the gear right there, but we knew the 41 didn't have third gear the entire race.
Very start of the race, he lost it.
Yep. Here's a look from the chopper cam. Yeah, it just doesn't get going. And everyone behind, I mean, you have a choice. You either let off and lose a ton of positions if you're a playoff contender, or you keep your foot in the throttle and hope you're able to get through. Chuck McClure actually did lift and still got bumper grabbed and spun. Kelly Causey, as we saw, was in the middle of it, and Donnie Garrett was on the inside line, got swept up with nowhere to go. So that's 3 playoff contenders right there that were involved. That's playoffs done for Kelly Causey. I believe actually Craig Hagley in the 82 was also caught up in it. Yeah, he was the one that got T-boned by Greg Lovell. We'll go on board with the 82. That's going to do it for his playoff hopes as well, as he was 9 to the good coming into tonight, but certainly will be below the cut line now. And right here, there's the shot from Greg Lovell. We're going to check real quick, see if there was any other incident that occurred here on this lap coming back to the checkered flag. I don't think there was, but there was a near moment through the tri-oval between Graham McDonald and Grant Wesley. Where Grant actually, I believe, was forced down onto the apron. Trying to find the 88 here. There he is. It looks like one comes up, one comes down.
Looks like they were just arguing over the same piece of real estate.
Yeah,
right
Grant
there.
got forced down. The good save by both of them. I don't think there'll be any call on that, but that could have been really bad. They both end up crossing the line. Grant in 8th, Graham in 9th. So race ends under yellow. We knew it was going to be chaotic at the end. Drivers trying to advance their way into the next round of the playoffs. And here are the unofficial finishing results from this first elimination race. Metallic locks himself into the next round with the victory. Dunlaprad, who came in 13 points above the cut line, second place. That will keep him in the round of 8. Rodney Sullen's third place here tonight. Looked like a borderline must win. Did he garner enough points to get into the top 8? We'll have to wait and find out. Tim Nofsker, he'll move on to the next round. The defending champion gets 4th. Randy Waugh
Luigi
will be the highest finishing non-playoff driver in 5th. Brian Schilling, he'll advance, finishing 6th. Ulysses Sandoval in 7th, with Metallic winning. We'll have to see if Sandoval got enough points, but I don't think he did. I think he might end up getting eliminated. It'll be interesting between Sandoval and Paglia, maybe, for that final transfer spot. Grant Wesley will advance, 8th place for him. Graham McDonald brings it home in 9th, and Mike Mangialardi going to bring it home inside of the top 10, continuing a very consistent year for that 0-29. Where'd the rest of the playoff drivers finish in this one? Well, you got to go all the way down to the 28th position, where you find Donnie Garrett. Had 27 points between him and the cut line. Was that enough to keep him in the running with a finish outside the top 25? I think it might have been. And then you've got Chuck McClure in 30th. He was 33 points to the good. Bear in mind as well, I believe both Donnie Garrett and Chuck McClure led laps tonight, so those are valuable bonus points that I absolutely needed. Kelly Causey, he will be eliminated, as will Bob Dixon, 31st and 32nd. They were both too far below the cut line. They were in must-win situations, so we know they will at least be 2 of the 5 drivers eliminated. And big question mark around the 28 of Mark Paglia, who'll finish in 36th after a mechanical failure. He was a total of 21 points to the good coming into tonight, but this DNF may have put him out of the round of 8, being one of our eliminated drivers. He joined Jeffrey Elliott, Robert Breedlove, and Tom Dixon as the drivers that did not reach the conclusion. After 5 yellow flags here tonight, 35 drivers finished the race, all 35 on the lead lap. Again, as mentioned, we don't know if we'll have an official word for you here tonight who the drivers are moving on. I think I can name at least 7 that are absolutely locked in. That 8th driver is a big question mark right now. We'll hopefully get some official word. If we don't, please join us next week. We will have the official 8 drivers that are moving on and the 5 drivers that were eliminated. But it's time to now head into our FRN post-race wind down and talk with some of our podium finishers. Let's see if we can dial up the driver that brought it home in the 3rd position here tonight, Rodney Sullins.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Rodney, Michael, Kyle, Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got a copy?
I sure do, fellas. How y'all doing?
Doing good. Well, you came in tonight 15 points below the cut line, up here in the conversation for the victory. We were trying to work the calculators, trying to figure it out. It kind of looked like you were in a borderline must-win situation. You had a chance to get clear up on that top line, battle Metallic for the victory. Where coming into tonight and then in that situation at the end, where did you see it? Do you think you garnered enough points to get into that top 8, or was it you had to be win or bust?
Well, I wanted to win to make sure. I don't think I'm going to make it in. If the calculations are correct, I've missed it by 1 point, which really sucks because last week I got caught up in that ridiculous sideways on pit road entrance situation, and that cost me a ton of points. And then tonight I was hoping Dunn. I've never really raced much with Dunn, so I thought he might pull out and go with me, but he didn't, and he stuck his nose under there and took my that point away also. So I think him not helping me to the win and actually getting by me probably kept me out of the final 8. I think if my calculations are correct. So I'm a little bummed. Um, I'm a little bummed, but it's a rough season. But I thought I was turning it around.
Rough season, but as you said, you had a great run there up into the playoffs. Unfortunately, didn't get it started off the way you wanted to last week in the first playoff race. How difficult is it? Even if you don't have a bad day, you just have a finish inside the top 15 and everything, because we kept remarking on the fact that we got towards the halfway point. We got towards the 2/3 of the way mark, and all the playoff drivers started finding each other up inside the top 10, inside the top 15. I mean, how difficult is it at that kind of a point to be able to make up any kind of ground if you find yourself in a bit of a points deficit heading into an elimination race?
It's crazy. You find yourself watching what everybody's doing and try just trying to calculate in your head, and that's why I give up to the point to where I'm like, I think I've just got to win this thing. So I just said, it's not going to matter where everybody's at if I can play my cards right, good pit stops, and get the checkered flag. It wasn't going to matter. So, but didn't do that. So it is what it is. We'll keep digging.
Well, we'll look for a silver lining here because, as mentioned, your finishes have really been good the last couple of weeks. Another podium finish here tonight. We talked last week with Joe DeSpirito. He didn't make it into the playoffs, but he said that while he would love to have the pressure of a championship hunt on his mind, it does kind of take a little bit of pressure off, allows him to race a little bit more freely, a little bit more aggressively for these checkered flags. And with the consistency we've seen out of this 38, while the disappointment of not being able to battle for the championship, does this now change you mentally going forward and maybe stepping it up a little bit more in terms of aggression to get that checkered flag before the close of season 64?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got nothing to lose now. The only thing I don't want to do is cost anything to the guys that's racing for the championship. There's several drivers there that I will definitely push to a victory if the situation arises. And there's a few guys on there that I'm going to bail on them at the drop of a hat. But it is what it is. But yeah, that's the good thing about it is I guess I'm just ready to go have some fun finally.
Oh, Rodney, obviously, shame you didn't advance into the next round, but a great run here tonight. Bring it home with a solid third place finish. It's gonna be a lot of fun to kind of see the new Rodney Sullins here in these final 4 races. See what you bring to the table to try and nab that checkered flag. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Thank you, Seth. Obviously, I want to thank you and Michael and Kyle at Flatout Racing Network. I look forward to watching this one back because it seemed like there was some exciting moments in this race. At least it felt like it from where I was at. Thank RTG, Rolling Thunder Gaming, Bones, and Prime, the owners of this great racing league. I want to thank Josh and Tim, and congratulations, Josh. You raced your way in tonight. I think me and you were tied coming into the night. So anyway, great job there. But Josh and Tim, my co-admins, I'm happy to be a part of them. Hope I'm carrying my weight. Want to thank Donnie Garrett, Ultimate Garage Floors, and Bob and Tom Dixon for help sponsoring this broadcast, and Black Rifle Coffee, Havana Brisa, my Burnt Screwdrivers teammates, John Godfrey, again, for this beautiful Wrangler car. I love this thing. Thank you, sir. Dad, if you're watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Fell a little short, but love you. Have a good night.
That's Rodney Sullins, third place here this evening. As he mentioned, 1 point short of advancing into the round of 8, but looking to close out the remainder of season 64 on a high note. Congratulations on the great run here tonight, Rodney.
Thank you, Seth. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Let's see if we can get a
User was
hold
moved
of
out of
Dunn
your
LaPrade.
channel.
And as you heard right there, with us having the information about Ronnie just missing out, yes, we do have the updated points. We will let you know who the Elite 8 are here heading into next week. One of those drivers, we're about to dial up our second place finisher here tonight.
User was moved to
Hey,
your
Dunn,
channel.
Michael, Kyle, Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Oh man, it was only a few weeks ago we talked to you down in victory lane for your first win in this series, locking you into the playoffs. Second place here tonight, you're moving on to the round of 8, but a lot of decision making you had to have there on that final lap. Ultimately, your draft deciding who was going to lock themselves into the round of 8 via a victory. You garner the most points in terms of the drivers that were already locked in. We talked with you when we were mentioning about the fact that you were going to be in your first playoff berth. Now you're moving on to the round of 8. How much more pressure are you feeling now than when we started out this round of 13?
Well, it's definitely amped up. I know that this the last 3 weeks or so has just been, 2 weeks has just been really crazy, especially with the playoffs, and then tonight was no different. I had to be really, really more disciplined tonight than I normally would. I feel like that I was probably running the inside or staying in line and not making moves more than I probably normally would on any other given night. Yeah, just trying to get all that I can tonight, but try to run a smart race more so because of my point situation. And I mean, I was gonna be, you know, I was committed to being behind Josh Batalik before that final caution came out, and then I had a couple of drivers go on the outside to pass by me. That put me third in line the inside, and I just told myself as long as I just stay in this spot, then I was going to be I would be in very good shape, and then I then going down the backstretch, I think the outside had some issues, getting linked up or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. All I know that I was just trying to hold my line down there, just try to hold my own, try to get the best finish possible, and then go to the tribal. I see the 38 coming up, going up, trying to get around the 39. I went down, trying to get second, and I just realized that that ultimately costed Rodney a shot to make it to the next round of the playoffs. So now I feel really bad about it. If I had known, I would have helped him to push him, but I was just trying to worry about my own race, doing everything I can, and hopefully, I hope he's not mad at me. I mean, that's the last thing I want to do is make anyone mad out of a decision like that. It's not the way that I wanted to have happen like that. But I mean, in the playoffs, everybody is essentially going for themselves. So, just like I said, just try to run a smart race and um, you know, a clean race and getting all that I can tonight, and I was able to make the most out of it. So, Brownie, I'm sorry, about that deal. I really am sorry, man. I hope hope you don't get mad at me or anything. Just I didn't realize what the points were until now. So, like I said, I feel bad. But still a good run from me tonight, nonetheless. Just wish that I had known about the point situation. I guess I don't know.
You came into tonight 13 points to the good. Your last couple of finishes now a win and a second place here at BSR, a track that is ultimately going to decide who moves on to the Final Four in a couple weeks' time, and then the championship decided in that two-race final round. With having the 13-point buffer, we were talking about the beginning of the night with how many drivers we have show up each week, how many points are on the table. We even were looking at drivers up there in the top 3, 4 in the point standings, 20, 25 points to the good. Not necessarily safe. I mean, we've even seen, as the updated point standings are, a driver that was, I believe, fourth in points in Mark Paglia fell below the cut line. With being 13 points to the good, but not necessarily mathematically locked in with all the moving pieces that take place in super speedway racing, did you find yourself racing more defensively tonight? Were you worried about points? Did you have like a target position in mind to run in? And was there any point during the course of the night you found yourself having to go a little bit offensive to make sure that you preserved your spot in the round of 8?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of a little bit of more so the defensive, just because I wanted to try to. Mainly my target spot was somewhere in the, definitely in the top 10. I feel like, as long as I finish in the top 10, I think I would be in good shape. And obviously, with the point situation, I mean, if a bunch of drivers in the playoffs, that I'm around with the points and I finish nearby them, even if I don't finish in the top 10, that would be good. still be good. But I mean, that's not the kind of thing that we're all here for, right? We all want to try to go for a win or try to get as many spots as we possibly can. And yeah, like I said, I was driving more defensive, just to try to be on the safe side of things, because I think there was even I don't remember where it was, but I think there was um there was one point in the race where we had like a line of 20 of us in the middle. Then I saw the bottom lane starting to form up, so I went down there to try to you know be a little bit more offensive there as well, attack, because of the fact that the inside line was moving on. Um and yeah, I mean, just trying to be safe and smart. um yeah, I mean, any amount of points that I can get, I mean, even a second place finish, I mean, that's if I can get that many amount of points, you know, for the next round and whatnot, that's better than nothing, really. That's better than finishing in, if I finish second, it's better to finish second than third, fourth, and so on. So, any amount of points that I can get, it really helped out, and tonight was no different.
Well, a solid outing here this evening. You advance into the round of 8 in your first full-time season. Congratulations on the job well done. Looking forward to seeing what you do here in this upcoming round of 8 starting next week at Talladega. Before we let you go, Dunn, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Well, I just want to shout out to everyone who raced tonight. They all drove a wonderful race, and just a fantastic, racing as always. These drivers know how to put on a good show. Shout out to everyone watching at home. Shout out to you guys up on the booth for broadcasting the race. Shout out to RTG Bones for the league. Allowing me to participate in this league, and shout out to everyone who has made me a better driver in this deal. And yeah, that's about it. And once again, I'm sorry, Rodney, for that deal. I mean, I feel bad now. It's just yeah, just there was a lot going on a line at that point. Just focusing on trying to get as many points you can, and then you know, then you just have that happen. It's like, yeah, it's the. Hopefully, I hope he's okay. I mean, if not, I mean, it is what it is. So.
Well done to Brad. Second place here tonight. Advances into the round of 8, and he'll look to get things started off in the next round of the playoffs next week at Talladega. Congratulations on the performance tonight. Best of luck next week.
Thank you all.
Let's go down to
User was
Victory
moved out of
Lane
your channel.
and dial up our, let's see, it would be our 8th different winner on the season. And another of the drivers that will be moving on to the next round of the playoffs. Let's get a hold of Josh Metallic down in Victory Lane.
User was moved to your
Hey
channel.
Josh, Michael, Kyle, Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Got a copy.
Man, I can hear the elation in your voice. You came into tonight 11 points below the cut line. Not necessarily mathematically a must-win situation, but we get towards the second half of this race, a lot of those playoff contenders up there at the front, and you could kind of visibly see the sense of urgency out of this 39 as it made its charge up to the front and ultimately stayed there at the end of the night. You had to keep them at bay on that final lap. What were you willing to do? Because at that point, it definitely did look like you were in the must-win situation to advance.
Yeah, what a crazy night. I got a really good starting spot, I think 6th. And halfway through the first fuel run, I was in like 25th. I'm like, well, this isn't working. And a couple of green flag pit stops, and I hot pitted the crap out of them to make up some ground there. Found a way to the front. Then I saw Mark Paglia had his issue, and I'm looking at the points. I'm like, well, he's in third, and I'm like, well, he's only like 20 above the cut line, 20 something above the cut line. I was in the top 5, and then I look and I see Hagley's 2 laps down or a lap down and 30 something. I'm like, I got a shot. But Rodney was up there, Ulysses was up there, and I knew not all of us were going to make it. So I didn't know if it was a must win, if I could point my way in from lap to lap. I was trying to look under caution and see the points, where the guys were at, and yeah, I was driving hard. I was really pushing.
So definitely looks like you were observing the entire landscape, all the different scenarios. It's interesting when we talk to certain drivers, especially when we get down to elimination race. Sometimes they'll just throw points out the window and focus on a potential must-win scenario. As we heard with you here, you were dissecting every different type of scenario of where you would be either above or below the cut line with other drivers around you. Do you find that easier? Do you find that harder? Is it a distraction doing that? Because we hear a lot of drivers, they will actually do the calculations in their head during live racing at a super speedway. Now, me personally, that seems like something that would just distract me, but do you find that easy to do when you're driving at over 180 miles per hour, sometimes three wide?
I went the first half of the race not even looking. I said I'm going to sit here and try to calculate lap to lap, and I'll blow a motor on lap 10 or something. So I said let's just get through at least till pit stops are done, and then we'll see where everything's at. And it was by then Mark was out. Craig had some kind of problem. I don't know how he lost 2 laps. So I'm like, well, there's a shot here. So then I started following where all those guys were, where Rodney was, Ulysses, and yeah, from there I was points racing and acting like I had to win too. I was like, I don't know if I have to, but I'll drive like I do. And I think I made it by a few points. Not like I cruised in there. I had to really drive like I had to win. That's about what it took.
You're one of 5 former champions moving on to this next round, the round of 8. Been a while since we've seen you in victory lane, been a while since we've seen you claim a championship. Getting this victory here at this portion of the season, at this type of a race, with this type of scenario, what does this do for the momentum of the 39 going forward into these final 4 races of the season?
Yeah, it feels good. I will be in a must win, as a matter of fact, next week. I'll be gone 8 days from today. I'm heading out on a little spring break vacation. So next week I'm going to be driving even more aggressive, to be honest with you, because I don't want to make it and then have to miss. I love the beach. I'm going to the beach. If it costs me the playoffs, so be it. But I'll be racing aggressive for next week. But yeah, it's been a little while. It's the first time since we lost Wiley, so I do want to dedicate the win to Wiley Coates. Still think of him every Thursday. Miss him very much so, but yeah, it's just it's nice to be back in victory lane. It's been a little while.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the victory here tonight. Thank you for giving us a new little storyline for next week. The viewers will want to tune in for that. Keep an eye on that Gray Ghost number 39 in next week's first race of the round of 8. Josh, we'll let you get back to your celebrating in just a moment, but we're going to hand the microphone over to you for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, thanks to Tim and to Rodney. I feel gutted for Rodney. It's unofficial. You never know what happens with post-race penalties, but I know he was looking at the points when the race was done and was gutted, obviously. Jeremy for getting those points up so quickly. Sorry, Prime and Bones. Again, they've been dealing with a lot of stuff this week, even today with the website and everything. So they're always working, never able to race, it seems. You guys, these broadcasts are so much fun to go back and watch. You guys have great camaraderie together. It's a hit with all the guys. They keep donating because they want to keep watching you guys do your thing. And the drivers, this is we didn't have knockout finally. We still had like 39 or something. So yeah, been great racing overall, and just really excited tonight.
Well, Josh Metallic wins his way into the round of 8 here in the first elimination race of the season. He will join 7 other drivers in the Elite 8 starting next week at Talladega. Go enjoy this victory, Josh. Best of luck next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
User was moved
Josh
out of your
Metallic
channel.
in victory lane. He'll advance into the round of 8, and he'll be joined by these 7 drivers. Tim Nofsker will end up winning, technically, the point standings in the first round of these playoffs. Brian Schilling's going to finish only 1 point behind him in second. Grant Wesley 2 points back in third. 4 points back, our runner-up finisher here tonight, Dunn LaPrade. Chuck McClure will be fifth. He was 11 points out of the points lead. Donnie Garrett will be 16 points out of the points lead in sixth. Metallic, with his victory, locks in on a win, but if we went based off of points, he would have been seventh in the standings, 17 points out of the points lead. And as we heard, 1 point, unofficially, of course, these are the playoff standings, but Ulysses Sandoval, despite the post-race penalty last week, 1 point, he will advance in the 8th and final position. Sullins will miss out by 1 point. He would have been 9th. Mark Paglia dropped out of the top 8 after his mechanical failure to 10th. Hagley, who was above the cut line, he was actually the cut line driver coming into tonight, he dropped down to 11th, 39 points out of the points lead and 17 points below the cut line. Bob Dixon, Kelly Causey, we saw where they were in the final finishing results. We pretty much knew they were going to be eliminated. Unofficially, Bob Dixon was 35 points below the cut line, and Kelly Causey was 40 points below the cut line. So for Sullins, Paglia, Hagley, Dixon, and Causey, their road comes to an end. 8 drivers will move on. Again, unofficial, pending post-race inspection and whatnot. We'll have the official playoff standings. More than likely won't change, but be sure to tune in next week for us to be able to let you know who officially those 8 drivers will be. But guys, I mentioned about the fact that we have 5 former champions moving on. You look at Dunn LaPrade, first time he's been in the playoffs. Same for Ulysses Sandoval. They're moving on to the next round for the championship. Donnie Garrett's been in the playoffs before, but he's yet to win the championship. We're looking at some potential underdog stories here, and if any one of these 3 find victory lane next week, guess what? Automatic ticket into the Final Four.
I think it's fitting that this is happening the same time that March Madness is going.
Right?
You have your
a lot
own,
of brackets getting broken.
Yeah,
broken brackets.
You have your favorites, you have your underdogs, and it's going to be fun to watch all this play out.
I mentioned about the fact, too, that when we were talking about brackets, the bracket challenge, what the situation looked like, but don't rest on it because a lot could happen on that final lap. Well, Donnie Garrett was ahead of Glenn Harris, got involved in that last lap wreck. Harris finished ahead of him, so Harris is moving on to the next round. Ulysses Sandoval finishing up inside of the top 10. He eliminates Doug Kulik, so next week, the losers round 7 will be Glenn Harris versus Ulysses Sandoval. Winner of that will face off against Mike Mangialardi in 2 weeks when we come back here to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. But next week, guys, we go back to Talladega Superspeedway. It's going to set the table here potentially for who is going to advance into that Final Four. We may have another non-playoff driver spoil the party and force them to have to point their way in. But how about the bombshell we just got from Josh Metallic? He won't be here in 2 weeks. So he's back in a must-win situation next week at Talladega. He performed well tonight under pressure. May end up seeing him being able to do it 2 races in a row.
Should be fun to watch.
Well, thank you all for tuning into our coverage here this evening. Congratulations to the 8 drivers that move on in the next round of the playoffs. Commiserations to those that were eliminated. But hey, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch those drivers down this home stretch, see what they're able to do in trying to nab either another or their first checkered flag of the season. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage here tonight. Again, next week, join us on Wednesday night when we'll be at Dover for the continuation of the 2025 season for the Esports Oval League's Grind Cup Series. 9 p.m. Standard Time when the green flag will fly there. And then the following night, 1 week from tonight, Thursday, 9 p.m. Standard Time, green flag flies on the 3rd playoff race of Season 64 for the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series, the first race of the round of 8. But for Michael Norman, Kyle Matthews, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday night, folks. We'll see you guys next week as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed